Hello everyone, welcome back to the Action with podcast. Today I'm joined by Sonu Kapoor, whose work has shaped the modern web development community. Sonu is a Google developer expert for Angular, Microsoft MVP, book author, international speaker, and a LinkedIn top voice. So, today in this episode, we are going to talk about Sonu's evolution from who he was before all the accolades to becoming a community leader recognized on New York Times Square. But before we dive into all of this, I would like to thank Sonu for joining us in this episode. And now I request you to please initiate the discussion by telling us a bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Amit, for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here. Yeah, like Amit said, my name is Sonu. Currently located in Canada. I have moved around quite a bit, from India to different places, and we'll talk about that in the questions. But yeah, overall, I'm super happy to be here.
Okay. All right, Sonu. So, as per your LinkedIn profile and some other social media platform, we all know that you are a Google developer expert, Microsoft MVP, book author, and now a person who is featured on the New York Times Square as well. But here I want to ask you, like, who were you before all these kind of achievements, titles, and rewards? What was Sonu like in school or early days?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, who was I? I was a very curious person, right?
Okay.
So I was not on, not the top of the class kind of kid, more than more like take apart the VCR and just see what's inside the VCR, right? So
Okay.
I moved around a lot. From India, I moved to Germany, then to Canada, and that constant change made me adaptable, but also a bit observant. I learned to see systems, patterns, and an early curiosity even became kind of the backbone of my career.
Mhm.
And in school, I wasn't really chasing grades. It was never about grades for me. It was more about understanding. Why does this work? How does this work? What happens if I do this? What happens if I change that? So that kind of mindset and curiosity became kind of my DNA as an engineer.
Mhm.
So at the end of the day, I would say I wasn't ever trying to get an A in
Okay.
my school. I was just trying to understand how things worked. And that curiosity has never stopped with me.
Okay, so I think that's the great point that every student can resonate with it, because especially those who are from the technical background, they are always curious about finding like what and how, like how the things are working, whether it's in a programming thing or any technical other things. So they will resonate more with your journey, because since beginning, like you were interested in order to find out like the actual root cause of any process or anything that you are developing. So same thing
Mhm.
will resonate. Okay, so moving ahead, like we will talk about your experience, because you have spent over 2 decades building high impact web application. So let's start from the beginning itself, like what got you started into the tech, and how did your journey led you to become both as a Google developer expert and a Microsoft MVP?
Mhm. Okay. So the journey into tech began when I was invited I was invited by a friend of mine to a birthday in
Mm-hmm.
Germany, and I was maybe 11 or 12 years old. And he had a computer, a Commodore C64.
Okay.
So that's the first time I saw a computer in my life, right? And when I got home, I begged my parents to get me a computer. Initially, they didn't agree because
Mm-hmm.
it was costly at that time. And
Right.
over time, they gave in and got me a computer. So I started hacking around with it, playing it with it, mostly playing games. But it also came with like two basic books.
Mm-hmm.
And they were really thick books. So started, copy pasting from the book into the editor that came at that time with it, to just create simple lines, like drawing lines with code. drawing shapes and things like that. So that's how I got into tech. Um, and I continued to evolve from there. Then in 2000, in the year 2000, there was a newspaper article in Germany
Mm-hmm.
where the German government announced that they will be bringing in a ton of tech gurus from India
Okay.
to help them with their systems, right?
Okay.
And that line kind of lit like a fire in me, right? So I'm like, I want to do this, but I didn't have the knowledge, or not enough knowledge because it didn't exist back then. So since India was always, I think, always ahead of the rest of the world when it comes to tech, I moved for a year back to India
Mm-hmm.
to learn web programming. So I started learning HTML, JavaScript, .NET, Java, everything I could within a year. And that decision sparked everything, right? So when I came back to Germany, I got my first dev job almost immediately. From there, I started building a community called .NET Slackers, which surprisingly exploded to over 33 million views in its entire lifetime.
That's great number.
And that project earned me my first Microsoft MVP award in 2005. And now fast forwarding a decade now, I shifted then to Angular, and I started contributing, mentoring, writing, and Google recognized, I think, the same energy.
Hmm.
And now I'm honored to be both a Google developer expert and a trusted collaborator in the Angular framework. So at the end of the day, I would say, that the internet gave me my career,
Okay.
and I've spent the rest of my life giving back to it.
Okay. It's good to see like how it all started and now you are contributing for multiple communities and with such tech giants, whether it's a Microsoft or a Google. So this is, I think, in it's in your destiny. That's why like you got your interest into the computers and playing games and to contribute for more for the IT industry. Okay, so Sonu, like here, like if you had to trace everything back to one decision that you think changed the course of your entire life, so what was it? Is it the decision of bringing home the computer or something other than that?
I think it was the decision of leaving a stable life in Germany to move
Okay,
back to India just to study programming, right?
okay,
So everyone, I think, thought I would, I'm crazy to do that because Germany has great universities and everything, right?
mm-hmm.
But that one decision taught me that, curiosities matters more than I would say comfort,
Correct,
and that leap completely reshaped my future, right? So it gave me the skills, confidence, and perspective that still guide me today. So I think sometimes, sometimes the best decisions don't make sense in the moment, but they make sense in hindsight.
okay. And there are some students also, like they often believe that when they got an opportunity to study abroad, whether it's Germany, US, or anything, so they will got lots of opportunity. But you, as per your experience, you shared that you studied programming and everything in here in India itself. So what do you believe? Like
Mhm.
nowadays, the education system here in India in terms of programming is good or better as compared to the other abroad countries?
No, I think it's still good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's better or if it's equivalent because I haven't been too much in India anymore to see what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I believe it's on par because India is growing quite a bit, right?
Right.
Especially when it comes to AI and all those kind of things. Like a lot of those um, startups that are recently created around AI are actually happening in Mumbai, right?
Right.
So um, even I know there's a lot of things happening in Silicon Valley, but we can't ignore what's happening in Mumbai. Like there's like 18, 19, 20-year-old students that are building great AI companies with a lot of funding.
Right. Yeah, and I think this is a great learning for all the students or the folks who are pursuing here in India, because they know that yes, they have the potential. If they have the passion, they can do a great things from here in India also. Like they can contribute to the global stage by uh, joining these kind of tech giants or by creating the startups there. That's great. Okay, so now let's talk about your contribution, because you have contributed directly into the Angular framework as a trusted collaborator, which is one of only which is one of only and globally handful. So, can you walk
Mm.
us through how that opportunity came about? What was your experience with that, and how it all started?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I started, again, I was always curious to see how the Angular framework worked.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no better way to learn than, than diving into the framework code itself.
Okay.
So when I started, I started really simple. There's like documentation changes you can make, like small code changes that you can make.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to the GitHub Angular repo, under issues, they have a tag called good first use. So you can sort and search by that, if you're curious or if you want to get started with contributing. So that will give you easy issues that you can most likely solve by yourself.
Right.
Um, so that's how I started, right? I started with those small things. But over time, I got a bit I got a bit bored, I would say, because I wanted to do something that has a bigger impact, right? So then I started working on type forms.
Mm-hmm.
And type forms, as we all know, it was the most upvoted request in the Angular history. So I started working on that, and the Angular team kind of caught the attention on my work. And they invited me to join the Angular Collaborator program,
Okay.
which was a huge honor for me, to be honest. It was not really planned. It just happened because I love to contribute. I love to give back. Um, so they invited me to that, and from there on, things really took off.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was able to help them. I was able to get invited to their events or to their meetings. It was amazing to see how the team works. And I would say if anybody wants to start contributing, the Angular team is very helpful. So
Right.
don't be afraid to just jump in and take on something and ask for help. They will help you and they will guide you wherever they can.
Right, and as a Angular GD, I also witnessed the same thing when I joined this community as a Google developer expert. There are plenty of people who are ready to help you if there is something that you want to discuss with the community. So they are open-handedly, like they welcome you, they discuss the things, and they are there to provide all kind of resources if it is needed. So anyone who are interested into front-end development, especially for Angular, they can reach out and they can um, be a part of the like-minded people or the community. Okay, so Sonu, if we talk about the front-end solution in terms of large enterprises like Citibank or from some of other tech giants, so what do you think? Like, what are the common scaling challenges are there? Because from your expertise also, like you have good exposure on the scaling thing, right? So, what do you think? Like,
Mhm.
what are the common pitfalls are there or challenges are there, and how do you solve them in order to get the better result?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a good question. So at the scale, I would say, the challenge sometimes isn't just code.
Okay.
It's a lot of coordination. So you've got hundreds of developers
Mm-hmm.
across like multiple time zones, all touching the same system. And when I led the front end for Citigroup's global trading platform,
Mm-hmm.
we were handling real-time bond and swap data, right? So millions of updates per second. And the key, besides obviously good code, was structure. So
Mm-hmm.
we modularized the application. We built shared libraries, standardized communication, right? And then we made Angular handle streaming data very smooth. So scaling, I think, isn't necessarily just about performance. It's also about people's teams
Okay.
that can communicate better, right? Scale better than any code ever could, right? So I think when we, as developers, we or engineers, we always forget that, coding is one thing, but good communication is at the same level and should not be ignored, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm also agree with this because coding is something that maybe you can learn by the time, by learning some of the syntaxes, but it's communication skill, business logic, and the kind of knowledge you have regarding the domain. So that will help you in the longer way. So especially those who are into their colleges, they are learning about the coding. So always pay attention to other part of it also, because coding will help you to build the product, but you have to communicate with your client, you have to deliver the product, you have to scale the product. So for that, a better communication is also a mandatory thing, so that you can focus.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And another thing, Sonu, like you specialize in the performance first development. So maybe for the audience, you can explain like what this performance first development, and what's the one mistake most of the teams make when that silently kills the front end performance if we talk about the products.
I would say, most teams over-engineer, right? They chase micro optimizations
Mm-hmm.
instead of fixing structural issues. Um, the biggest silent killer in Angular, I would say, is change detection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Too many bindings, too many subscriptions, um, too little awareness, maybe how the state flows.
Mm-hmm.
And my advice is always, measure before you start optimizing.
Mm-hmm.
Use tools like NG Profiler or Chrome's performance tabs, because you need to know what you're fixing, uh, and to know what you're fixing, you need to first measure it, right? So
Correct.
don't start fixing something where you don't have any data yet.
Right. Yeah, and I think these are the tools that will help you, because when you have all the requirement clear, then it would be much easier for you to scale your product and to build it in the further go. So maybe you can make use
Yeah.
of, and nowadays everyone is utilizing AI also. So make use of those kind of tools in order to get the better result. Okay.
Yeah, one more thing I would say is, performance isn't about um, coding faster, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's the reverse. It's about thinking slower before you type, right? So
Right.
think really first before you type. Don't rush into things.
Yes, and that I also know found one quote that the more time you spend in writing the pseudo code, it will help you to create the better application, because now you know what to prepare, how to prepare, and how it will work when it is in the client end. So similar kind of thing, like for performance also, we should pay proper attention, not to be in so much hurry to complete the task.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the book also, because book is also a kind of thing through which you have contributed as an author, and you literally wrote a book on the AI powered application development. And nowadays we all know that AI is a hot topic. So what does AI front end development actually look beyond the hype, uh, which is
Mm.
right now in the market? So what do you think, like how it is impacting the AI, the front end development or AI powered development?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's way more than just ChatGPT, right? So
Okay.
I mean, ChatGPT started it all, right? But it's about, you can say, ChatGPT, or about the intelligence in interaction,
Mm-hmm.
right? So imagine your app adapting based on user behavior,
Right.
or generating UI layouts dynamically and predicting the next best action. So in my book, I show basically how developers can connect Angular frontends with AI services from natural language processing to image generation, right? Using real APIs. And I
Correct.
even demoed how an Angular app can generate UI components from text prompts using Google's Gemini API.
Hmm.
So I think we're moving towards an era where front ends aren't static. They evolve based on context. And the
Correct.
line between app and assistant is blurring because developers who understand that shift early will, I think, lead the next wave, right?
Right.
So tomorrow's apps just won't respond to users anymore. They'll collaborate with them, they'll help them, they'll make them better.
Correct. And where the audience can find these books? Like, is it available only on Amazon as a hard copy, or do we have any e-version also?
Yeah, there's also an e-version available on Amazon.
Okay, it's available on Amazon.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the articles because you have authored more than 15 plus technical articles. You have spoken internationally and also
Mhm.
co-host the podcast. So how has the
Mhm.
content creation impacted your engineering career? Because um, at one side like you are working for the technology as a technical expert providing the IT solution, on the other hand you are also contributing in these kind of roles as an author, international speaker and the podcast host. So how it has impacted your journey, the content creation?
Mm. It honestly it impacted it in every possible way, right? So
Okay.
writing forces clarity. If you can explain it simply, you understand it, right? So every article, a talk I have done has sharpened essentially how I think as an engineer, right?
Right.
Because if you start writing, you need to be able to understand it. And if you don't understand it, um, you'll automatically go into the, why kind of
Correct.
um, loop, you can say, why is this? Why is that? So you automatically answer your own questions and you become better at explaining it.
Right.
And it also builds like credibility. So my work with Code Magazine, for example, or Signals, um, have opened doors that I couldn't have planned, like these book deals,
Hmm.
global speaking invitations, then editorial roles with publishers like Manning or O'Reilly.
Right.
And more than anything, right, it creates community. People reach out saying an article helped them solve a bug, or it helped them to understand the topic more and better. So every time you share knowledge, you essentially multiply it, right?
Right. Yeah, this is the fact. Like when you create a simple content, let's say a 10-minute video, for that video, like you have to do lots of research, you have to go to a couple of other resources, and then you create and conclude that 10-minute content. So that's why like you learn more when you are teaching something. Okay, so although like we have plenty of thing, but we are short on time, so I just want to take two more questions regarding the advice which you would like to share with the young folks, and also
Mm,
the impact of your mentors. So let's go one by one. Firstly,
mm,
just let's assume that you had 100 fresh engineers in front of you right now. So what would you tell them to stop immediately? Because we usually talk about those things like what to do, but here I want to ask you
mm.
the question like what they are supposed to not do and stop doing it immediately.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say is, stop chasing frameworks.
Okay.
Frameworks are just tools, right? They're not careers. Master fundamentals like JavaScript, architecture, performance. Those skills will outlast any tech trend, right?
Right.
Like when I started with my career, there was no Angular. There was like JavaScript was always there, right? But there was no
Mhm.
Angular. Um, ASP.NET back then looked different what it is today, right? And who knows what will happen in another 5 years? There might be another um, another framework that comes out that is a mix of React, Angular, and Vue, that is like 10 times better what we have right now. Who knows, right?
Right.
So that's one thing. And also stop coding in isolation, right?
Mhm.
Open source your learnings, even small ones. Your GitHub profile today is your digital profile or your digital portfolio.
Right.
And the collaboration teaches you more about real world engineering than any tutorial ever will, right? So
Right.
at the end, I would say stop learning frameworks, start learning how to think like an engineer.
Right, because when usually we are in colleges, like we used to have a system where we just do a coding and we deploy it on a server and just test it by our own, right? But when you share the same thing over the open source, when you collaborate with the open source community, then there are lots of other things that you will get to learn about, like how things work, what are the things that are not working as expected. So in that way, like you will also learn the team building, like when to present your thing and how to take care of all those challenges just through the communication. So that's the better way. Okay, so now let's talk about the influence of the person who had a great influence on your life, because we all believe that everyone needs a mentor or a guide in their life. So, looking back on your career, like who were those people, key people for you who have helped you to shape the career you had today?
Yeah, that's a good question. So back in 2005, when I started building .NET Slackers,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Scott Gu. He was back then the developer advocate for .NET, and he essentially got me started with building my website,
Okay.
right? So he helped me to build it so that it can scale, up to the amount of users we had.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also the first who nominated me for the MVP award back then.
Okay.
Um, so he taught me what it means, to give back to the community.
Hmm.
Um, a decade later, I would say it was from the Angler team. I think it was Mark Thompson who
Yeah.
showed me that leadership isn't about authority and it's about empathy and consistency. So
Right.
these are the two, uh, obviously my parents, right? But from the technical perspective, I think these are the two people that I would say I owe my career to them. And I've built my career around tech. And it's thanks to these two people.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, thank you so much, Sonu, for joining us in this episode and for sharing so much information and also your career journey. Because I think this kind of journey or this kind of story will resonate with many of the IT folks who wanted to pursue their career maybe in abroad, or who wanted to learn about the technical things and wanted to contribute in the other tech giants program like Microsoft MVP or Google Developer Expert. So, thank you for
Yeah.
once again for joining and for sharing your expertise with all.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.